this cool? There's all this motion in the samples. And down here, it's so cool. So welcome to Eternal Flow. I've made like probably over 100 libraries now. And I, do voicing on lots of Korg synthesizers since the 80s. So at this stage of voicing, I'm playing fun games with how I make sounds to make it a little more interesting for me. I gotta keep myself engaged, right? So with this, I gave myself the name Eternal Flow. And then I've worked for the last couple months with that being kind of the idea in the back of my mind. And then after I'd made a whole bunch of stuff, I kind of deviated. And it was a good deviation because it made this library turn into more than one library. It's like multiple libraries in one library. So you've got these wonderful pads that evolve. And the way I made these, if you're interested, this is one of the patches. Here's Freedom Bell if I play the sample so you can hear it. Then I looped it so the bells keep repeating. This was made right here. See how it's changing and cycling through different sounds? This is using wave sequencing, which is a technique we have inside of Unify to use a sequencer that is put through Polybox, which says, hey, you go to MIDI channel 1, next note goes to MIDI channel 2, next note goes to MIDI channel 3. So each of these layers is set up to a different MIDI channel and has a different vital patch that we've put on it so this sound is all vital sounds, but you play one note and you see how it cycles through them. There's some other ones if I actually refresh the library. There's also like, here's Dream Log. See how it's cycling through these sounds? So it's not just one sample, it's a sequence. And then I go over here to Unify and I call it Dream Log. And the final version with final mastering, I did some other magical things to it. And you have this really cool sound that is always moving. And so I took that concept and let's be showing like Aquas. Isn't that cool? Even to like really bombastic, weird stuff. This is FM Energize. It's a really cool FM patch. Incredible harmonics. I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh. But those harmonics, if you shape them, one cool thing with this library is there's a bonus library that you guys are going to help me make. And there's one patch in there to start. If we go over here, we like refresh and call it Zen Harp. So I'm going to be showing you some of these other sounds, but check this out. On top of this really cool, pure type of harp, there's another sound, which is that FM Energize. And I'm high pass filtering the daylights out of it. So you just have that high end, cool, like what the heck energy. And I have the samples starting later in with a fast attack. And it becomes a really cool bell element. So when you make patches, you can save them into this bonus folder, send it to me. I'm going to put everybody's patches together in early October and put it out as a free bonus library for this. So you buy the library, spend time making patches. I already have it set up with a place for you to save them. And then you just send me your bonus folder and we'll put it all together. It's going to be really, really fun. And the other thing that's interesting, check this out. So it currently has 184 patches. I want the library right here to say 185, which means after the walkthrough, we'll make a patch together. Okay? So we got a lot of work to do, right? But as you can see, here are these really cool bells. Really cool. All the way. If you want to see when I make one of these, here's my map that I did in Logic. I sample it this way. I play in the notes. I do it very old school. There's people that have software and you just push a button and it's all done. I've never done that for any of my sounds. I always play them in, sequence it. Maybe I'll have the same sounds play from the same sequencer, but I check my sequence and I know the notes. And then I spit them out as samples and I split them and I chop them into individual samples. So there is a total of 20 samples to most of these sounds. So that's how I make these libraries. This is my profession. And so automating it, sometimes there's nice to have automation help in places, but where it's really important, I still love to make the sounds. I'm a curator, people sculpt with clay, I sculpt with sound. So that's my philosophy anyway. So there's some really cool sounds. This is the round robin version, which means each time you play a note, it's cycling between 4 different types of harps. And then we have a fast and slow chorus, just by themselves, if you want to call it, to use just as a simple sound. There's also a harp that's really nice. This is the chorus, so there's nice motion. And then there's a pure. So you can add your own chorus and so forth. Really nice. These were all made inside of a really cool plugin that's part of Logic called Sculpture. And it has this really cool indicator for where you want it to mix different materials in the engine. It's got 3 different possible impulses. And I made patches, a lot of them, inside of Sculpture. So on top of the harps, I also made these really cool basses. That kind of vibe and stuff like that. The bass would. So you have these really cool bells and basses. We'll skip all this bonus stuff because this is the other half of the library. You have really cool pads, right? Skip the perk. You have some really cool special effects like noises. That was made in Sculpture. So is this. So yeah, these really cool things. The other textures, these are for percussion. So the other half of the library, I made all these things that have motion, right? So we've got all these cool pads that have quirks and really cool things. It gets a little lost timing-wise, right? So I was like, what if? Let's see here. Get these guys up here to introduce you to the stars of the show. So I recorded 3 different tambourines, big, small, and tiny, and my microphone's optimized for my voice, so these don't sound good. They distort fairly badly. There's African shakers. There's a little eggshell, right? And like, as a comparison, like here's the eggshell. If we go up here to the perk eggshell right here, egg. You have samples all the way up. You got 59 samples of eggshell shaker. You got shakes, right? And then if you go up here to the BPM perk section, you can go to eggshell, and there's 10 different sequences where I just picked between those 59 samples and made sequences. So and you can spin the pattern knob. I saved each one as a patch, so you can just call it up quickly when you're layering. And they're like 4 or 8 major long patterns, so it's not super repetitive. But let's go to the rain stick. I recorded my rain stick. This is a small rain stick. I have bigger ones. But you can play this as a shaker. And it's a really, really cool sound. So it's in here. I have a guiro, a gourd guiro right here. And I can, right, like that. Well, I sampled a whole, like there's like 80 samples of guiro. And so you can go here and say, load up, and once you load this as a unified layer, you can go to the knobs and change the pattern. There's the guiro. But there's all these wood hits, which makes for a really, really cool alternative, like just rhythm. So if you go to the perk gourd guiro, where are you at? Right here. There is just literally excuse me. And it goes up like 2 octaves. And it goes down. No, I had it start at C. So it starts at C1. Oh, no. There's an octave lower. Yeah. So you have tons of samples to play with in these. I don't like libraries where you get one note for your shaker. Even if it's round robins and different velocities, it's more fun. You can actually sequence and move the notes around to find the right. It's really, really fun to do that. So I made patterns for this. Also, which is a double shaker. So if you go here to egg shaker double, because it's 2 canisters in it, it just has this really, really cool sound. I love it. I just had it sitting there like, what the heck? So I recorded the Japanese kokoriko, which is this really cool, that's all it does. But I still came up with, I think, 8 different patterns for it. So you can, these are more like rhythm where I was just tapping on it. But if you put that with the shape, now the African shells, I love this. Where's my shells? Where did I put my shells? Oh, here they are. I love this. This is one of my favorite, held by strings. So that's the African shaker. So let's add a couple more things here. Let's go to the rain stick and add that. Now the talking drum I'll show you in a second. Let's say to the tiny, that's this one here. This is the triangle, or this is the tiny tambourine. It's a stick and it's a half a tambourine in shape. And it just makes this really, really cool, kind of more tight and focused kind of a vibe. So if you go over here and say like 5. So you have these things that can give you tempo. So when you go down here and add one of these really cool pads that has all this cool motion and stuff inside of here. You know, you have something giving you some defined tempo. I thought like the library's got the yin and yang in it, right? So the yang for the yin of the random timing motion was rhythm. And you can get really, really, really carried away. I only did a few. I'm going to do a whole bunch more in the bonus library. But check out a couple of these. Like here's Chasing the Sun. I mean, it's so cool. So once you get everything timed up, let's have the kick and snare. So that's one patch. But it has so much going on. And you can turn things on and off. Let's turn off the wave sequencing and just have wood. And if you can turn off the wood, it's this really cool rhythmic pattern, right? And you can add the kick and the snare. And the way Unify works is they don't start playing until I play a new note. So I've turned them on. One. I will admit, Odessa was a bit of inspiration for this one. Call the shakers when we're ready. Once you go past 50%, it's there. It just goes on and on and on. So you have wave sequencing, rhythmic pad, and a rhythmic vocoder that's playing one of these sounds. So if you go just to the vocoder by itself, and it's a Unify layer, so you can open this up. There's all sorts of knobs for changing the frequencies of the vocoder. You can even turn the drums more. This drum pattern is what's actually triggering the vocoder inside of the combo box instrument. It's a rabbit hole. We can get really, really deep in Unify. Chasing the Sun kind of shows that. Other examples like Soft Metal Butterfly. You hear motion, kind of cacophony, but the percussion balances out. Right? So, it's a yin-yang kind of library. There's a reason I use this artwork, which I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's kind of fun. But that's the idea. Motion, kind of like this out-of-control stuff, and then you have rhythm and percussion for the balancing of it. I should show you, this is my talking drum. You play it by holding it and squeezing it with your armpit. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. I didn't sample it super deep because I have another percussion library I'm working on for later this year. But there is... And this works really well with the pitch to turn. So if you kind of want those big kettle drums and weird stuff, layer this with the shaker. I mean, it just takes you to a cool place. So it's so fun to play with all this stuff. So this library, check out the demos, check out the videos. Let me give you just a quick walkthrough from the top. Now that I've kind of like done a introduction to it, I kind of got carried away, but it's a fun library. This was a fun one to put together. So at the very top, we start with basses. And as I showed you inside of Sculpture, there is the ability to choose between nylon, wood, steel, glass, so forth. So I changed around the settings to get it to be. That's kind of your pick. Here's a plug. And wood. Just like, ooh, wow, nice. Then the bells. Because of the programming parameters inside of Groove's sampler with velocity and a really lovely filter, I get far better results using velocity to the filter to go like. Instead of trying to, if you have to do so many samples before the different samples at different, and then you're talking about huge libraries, huge amounts of memory. So filtering works really good for that. The round robin version. Really fun to arpeggiate these. Here's the different sculpted. And the reason there's so many bells, these work really cool as attacks into the pads. So that's what we're going to make at the end of this, is going to be make a belly pad kind of thing. And not try to be sounding like a belly pad. Not like the typical, you know. Just love the vibe of these. Here's the harp. And there's no effects. I have effects set up so on page 2 you can turn on distortion. Use the high pass filter to not distort the bottom. Just the high end if you want. And then a low pass post for how bright you. And this is like a mix right here, so you can have just a little fuzz. Pump house, that's our little pump house right here, right? It says pump. We have it set to sidechain. You can click here, say I want it to be just a calculated saw down. Now it's a pulse. Right, so you can use it for that type of an effect. Here's the pure harp. Also, another parameter, I think it's on the 3rd or the 2nd page right here, sample start. Use this in the attack to soften it just a little bit so it doesn't click. If you want to bypass the attack. Because you can do fun tricks, like if we go up here and we say like sculpted bell, let's add this as a Unify layer, and just real quickly, I'm just gonna put a global filter, go over here to filter EQ, filter max, high pass. Just now I have a transient from this. Here's just the sine bell, no attack, and I've filtered out the body from the 2nd layer. So you can do all sorts of fun things like that. Silver bells. The most typical-esque bell that I did for the library. Here's kind of dark and snappy and pure, and then round robin goes. They're very subtle, but not not as dramatic of a difference as a sculpted. Sculpted round robins go from one type of bell to like very different in the same family, but different. This one is subtle. You gotta turn off the reverb. And then you'll hear that it's... So I want one that was a little bit more like family, and then one that was like cousins. And then these BPM grooves, this is the percussion stuff. So this is putting everything together. Just some really cool vibes you can get from this. Here's a get down. Smooth jam without kick and snare, so you can put your own kick and snare in. But I love all the little intricate timing things you can do because of the samples. Tambo trio. It's all three the tambourines together, and then a techno gated. I actually just pulled this out from one of the BPM patches that I made. I think it's not Buck Juice. Is it Inquisitive Minds? Is this one? Nope. Maybe Warrior Position. Right? And when I got done with that, I was like, oh, that's a really cool groove. I like how it turned out. So I pulled it out as its own separate, just so you can call it up here at the top, techno gated. It's using a reverb that has, let me see, how am I doing this? So the snare is right here. And I'm using the dynamics after the snare reverb just to gate it a little bit, to give it a little bit tighter shape, which is kind of fun. All right, so then we get to the BPM perk. So if you want any of these, you can turn off MIDI box and just, now you can play the notes yourself to make your own sequences or to check out the samples. Or you can turn this on and there's 10 different patterns. And again, each one of these, it takes a lot of work to set these up, but we'll talk about that in another video, but typical. I wait to hear a pop song with this. Happy Slider. Now here's some of the fun ones. Just the woody hits. It's really fun to put with that. It just gives you a rhythmic wood transient energy. It's really lovely. So I made 2 of those, but you can make 200 of those easily. Put that with the drum groove to give you a different snare kind of color. Busy wood. Now this MIDI velocity is important because you can bring up the velocity or bring it down in any of these. So when you're playing, he's playing nice and soft, and then he, brings it up. So that's in there too. Japanese Kokoriko. Got the hits on the snare, stuff like that. African Shells. March Forward. It's actually different samples for each one, so that's why it sounds so natural. There's times where you want it to be consistent and the same. There's other times where you want it to be different. Sixteenth pattern. Now for this, you might take the pitch up so that it gets to be shorter samples. And then you could go over here. I didn't put anything in here, but you can go to the parameters, go to K, shorten it so that it just has doesn't play the full samples if you want it to. Okay, shaker double. eggshell. So there's all sorts of stuff. Rain stick. Some of that I showed you earlier. Tweedledee. Talking drum. Like something like this, take it down in a pitch. Here's the tambourines, just 2 and 4. With the flourishes. Straight 8s. So you can play, here's this big tambourine and small tambourine together. See how they're different, but they complement each other. So I picked these out. I have more tambourines than this. I picked out 3 that I thought would be like a family to work. Like if you add tiny to this as well, you hear the coloring of each of the 3, so they kind of fit nicely together. Anyway, so lots of percussion, and then you get to these really cool pads. And again, the mod wheel, to darken it so you just get rid of some of the attention grabbing of the frequency moving up high. Then you have room to play with for phrasing, which is kind of fun. The other idea with these is they work really cool to have this motion and stuff happening. Let's call up another one like. Right? There's a lot in there. But filter it. Just get to where you have just a little bit of that stuff popping up. As an example, let's call up an empty layer, and I'm going to call up Filth. Because Crow Hill just released a really cool electric piano. So just using the piano, it's probably a little soft, so we can. If we let's turn it down a little bit. Turn this up. See how it's just got all this motion energy just subtly in there, just available. Now, when I move the mod wheel, it's tied to wobble. So one thing we can do, there's a really cool filter inside. Just go to the little yellow plus for the plugin that you want to ignore mod wheel. I don't want it to change. So I can go over here, I can go add utility, MIDI filter, and I go to MIDI CC1, and now it's on the list to block. So now I can play and filter, and I don't change my piano anymore. I don't get the wobble to pop up. It's still a little bit loud, these pads. There's a lot of energy in them, so they can be quiet. Even bright, it's cool to have these things that you're playing that just have this. It's like, how'd they do that? To do all that programming in the background. You just go, no, just skip his library. Right? So that's the idea. You can filter them and still have this like energy that's just in there. That's the idea. I used this lovely plugin Sculpture. It has a really cool thing called bouncing for its third object that can be put into the physical model. And so I use that to get these cool bouncing effect. And there's a way you can set the energy so it continues to bounce and it's random. And just like before, the filter can let you get a little bit of the attention of that higher energy bouncing stuff to go away. And then it just becomes this really cool energy. It's just not a pad. It's more. And then when you want, you just like tease people with just let them have just a little minute to hear that motion energy of the bouncing. So I did it to metal. Here's steel. And then wood is really cool because it's dark. Isn't that cool? And again. It's really cool for cinematic applications at the beginning of films where you was seen where it changes like that. It's really cool. Dark Melancholy. Another one where filtering is nice and useful. You still have this like that had sad energy to me, so all this cool stuff. This one has really cool stereo. It's all over the place. Doom scroll is kind of an effect. One note's all you need to this. Keeps going. So it's cool for like melodies, octaves. I wouldn't suggest playing chords with that. Again, trying to get energy that you can filter it down. Just find the right sweet spot. And then put an acoustic piano or strings over the top of that, and it'd be really cool. So here's one sample, one note. So here's one of those wave sequences that I showed you, where I've now processed and I've put effects to each of the layers. Just really, really cool, just to get your ear candy going, you know? Some other fun. I have a hang drum, so I played it and then I processed. Really, really cool. Percolations, this is really intense. But again, you can filter it. So it just has this like energy in it. Kind of like tearing it apart almost. all sorts of ways to use these. So, Neutronic series. Really nice, even one note. It's all in one sample. So it starts to get all kind of really, really fun. So kind of hear those elements from the other one, but really, really fun. Eternal Rift. Love it. Okay. Thin Silver of Hope. More thinnish, stringish. And then here's the percussion maps. There's the Guiro. Not so many samples of the Cocorico. A good number of African shells. Ups and downs and it's all there. And did more chunks and full runs and all that kind of stuff. The talking drum. So there's a normal area here, then then you have the bend ups and bend downs. To play with, right? Tambourine big, small, usually these glides, the shakes, the next note above it is the hit from that. I'd go bump, right? So you can do that just, they work very nicely together when you work them that way. Tiny. There's a lead in. Next note up is the hit. So you can do all sorts of fun stuff. Special effects. Cymbals. Cool textures. Toms. Then there's the noises of jazz. And then the toms. Cacophony. And then I did some performances with the percussion, shaking them. So now you have them to play across the whole keyboard. If you want the pitch bend to go up and down, far ranges, you can take it up to 4 octaves up and down. And instead of being fast, bring up the lag. And now it's slow. So it doesn't immediately go flying to the pitch you want, which is kind of fun. Another shells. It's just played a different way. The Corico, kind of being spastic with it. the rain stick. And then I loop this. So it's able to be played forever. Put a pump house on it. Shaker rattle. I loop this. So you can do water sprinklers. And then the bonus patches. And I did a handful just to get some ideas going. Cool. Because now this is where it gets to be where you get to make your own patches, playing with this library. But remember, you can access everything that's inside of the standard library. So this Guru sampler that's playing the pizzicato, it's from the standard library. So anything from the standard library or from the Eternal Flow folder, don't use samples from anywhere else, or else they won't work for everybody else in the patches. Don't use any plugins other than those inside of Unify. So when you go to Guru Sampler, the Unify Standard, you can play with all these different instruments if you want to have these layered with the samples. Audio effects, you can go to the Unify Standard, and they've got delay, distortion, EQ, reverb. There's all these different types of reverb to play with. Don't use any plugins that somebody is going to be required to install. We can't take those patches. I'll just have to ignore them. So let me show you what I did with some of these. I just made this a nice darker, got rid of that high-end attack. The smooth wood. I got rid of that attack. You know, alternate patches, bonus patches don't have to be just everything, because I did that as well. But there's times where you want to make more of this. This is one of the bass patches, but it plays as a cool harp. Especially when you have, like, I did reverb with phase more after it to give it a little bit alternate. Heart of Gold. Revolution harp. Using the motion, the bouncing. Some nice, cool, big guys. Then there's a BPM bell. Got some pad elements. There's a demo song I did called Scarlet. That's using Heavenly Highway for the beginning of it. Chasing the Sun. We started this in a live stream, and then this is the final version. This is one that has the kick and snare you can turn on. 2, 3, 4. Right? And you have on and off for all the layers and stuff. Hour of Hope. Fun of wave sequencing in Unify is just, you can go, and we'll make these, tomorrow there's a live stream, so we'll be making some of these probably during that. Right? So stuff like that. Soft Metal Butterfly. This is actually the second half of the Scarlet demo song, when it kind of goes away and then another part comes in that's different. I was using this patch. just lovely, fun stuff. Warrior Position, this has a right, and then Bug Juice Jam. It's fun. It's a split, so you got bass. There's a talking drum. It's fun stuff. Then some big pads. Because of all the motion, it's very easy to make big pads spacewalk. This has a trick from the M1. Right here, the African shaker. It has an LFO change in the pitch up and down. If you remember Universe, my friend McKelly made that, and it's using a certain kind of a sound like this. It's got like a textured rhythmic thing and pitch, and then when you put a pitch LFO on it, just get this like energy that changes and stuff. Mixed with the bass and the pads. Right. And then in the demo, Scarlet, I had a really cool opening effect of the rain stick with a resonant filter. So here, I'll play the demo actually. Let's go like this. If I, let's go like that, solo, and here it is. So you hear the beginning. So everything is this library. Nothing else added. There's some of the percussion textures. Then here, that soft metal butterfly. See how it transferred nicely? Then the Suzuka bass. So they all work together. So you can, if we come over here and stop the, that's right here. You guys will want to see the chords I play, so I'll go like this. Here we go. Right? So they all work together. And then if I wanted to, I could go over to bass. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's init. Watch this. So we're going to say load soft metal butterfly as a new Unify layer and go to bass and load the Pitsy pluck and load that into a new Unify layer. So we hold down Option Alt to delete for the first layer. And then we go stop at C and this stop there. And the tempo was about 70, I think. So I'm gonna slow this down. And then I need to take this down an octave, so hold down Option Alt, and there. There you go. So that should be a bonus patch. And let's do this. Two things. We want to add our mastering effect. So when you're making patches in Unify, there's this master effect chain. And if you go right here and you go replace from layer preset, there's these master presets. And if you use the optimizer light without it, with it, it just tightens it a little bit and it gives you EQ to work with. And I don't really want to add EQ there because this is just about right. Maybe a little bit, so we could get maybe like 2.5. Now my bass is too loud, so we're going to go over here to the bass, and I'm going to put a filter, that same MIDI filter we used for the modulation wheel earlier. MIDI filter, we want to suppress sustain pedals, so that way I can play chords in my right hand. And my bass doesn't sustain. So I can use both hands if I want. Now, I need to get this guy. Thankfully, with each patch I make, they all use that same effect. And I'm going to turn down loudness just a little bit. But I need a little bit more high end, which I might need to double that just a little bit. So let's go over here and say Unify EQ. So I want to really pop out. Okay, that's about right. Maybe we don't need loudness. It does a nice job focusing the low end for the mix. Doesn't need it. So, we're going to save this into the bonus library. So I'll show you how we do it. So go save, and you go for library name. And because we already installed that bonus library, it's right there. So you just have to select it. You're done. Name it. Since this is a BPM split, I'm going to go BPM split. And since the demo was called Scarlet Demo, JL. And categories, it's a BPM split. Tags, let's see, there's bass, there's BPM, pad, and percussion. Mellow, chill. You can add whatever you want. For author, choose the same name, use the same name all the time. If you want to use more than one name, it makes a mess for the naming system. It's best if you just put one name. Little comment. This is the bass pad split from the Scarlet demo song I wrote for showing off this library. And save as save. So now your bonus flow, the bonus library is going to actually have 2 patches in it because we just made one. But let's make one more to show you another bonus patch. Just to like have it's. I love making patches, and I had to hold myself back because of just I want us to do this together. I don't want to like explore everywhere the library can go. I have a cool idea. So I'm going to turn off the effects. Move the sample start. I'm going to make it darker. So we're going to put velocity filter. Make sure you check this when you're checking the patches. I use this a lot, but it will affect whether the filter can get dark. If this is up, then it never will get dark because velocity is being added to the filter cutoff. So bring that down. I don't want velocity to the filter. I want it to do the same thing all the time. And I'm going to lower the, let's get rid of loudness. So we could just bring this down. And then I'm going to put this with a pad, but I'm going to have the pad go in a different direction. Instead of being, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to say load as a Unify layer so that if I change my mind, I can change. And let's go sample start. Like maybe this doesn't work, so I can. That's cool. But let's bring down all of our filter stuff. I'm gonna use a band pass. I want this to be short. There we go. I want to do kind of a wow effect. So I have attack and decay both to the filter. And because it's in its own Unify layer, that means the distortion and stuff is here. So if I go over here to macro knob page 2, that's kind of cool. And I don't want it to play forever, so I'm going to have it so that I want it to actually, this is a cool trick. This is getting kind of complex, but instead of using the ADSR, if you bring up the amp to 100% and you set this to one shot, it now looks at the LFO and it does whatever the LFO says. And we have custom for LFO shape, so I can have it where I have it be bright and then just go away, right? And then I can speed that up. Maybe a little bit slower. Cool. Now it's a mono LFO, so there's times where it does weird things, but I kind of like that. I kind of want it to do it. Right? And just for fun, I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to use a normal sample from the standard library. So it goes Unify Standard Library, basic waveforms. Let's do like maybe Unison 8. It's kind of cool. There. So this. Now my bell kind of doesn't sound. So let's try it. Decide I want the attack. And I want that to have reverb. So go over here and send this to number 1, which is reverb. And we want to be shorter. And maybe I want that to be layered with the synth too. So let's duplicate this Guru sampler layer and click and drag to move it up here. And let's go to the standard library. Maybe to Mega Magic Bells and Winds, because some other bells in here that are really cool. That's kind of a cool alternate mix. So turn down the bells so we get more synth. There we go. And save. And we want this to go to the full library for this. This is a Z Synth. S-Y-N-T. Snappy Bell. Snappy Belly. So we made this in our little video here. So synth. I don't use large caps on categories. Bell, sculpture, synth, filtered. Made in the Walkthru video for this library. Save as, save. 185, okay? And I just want to do one more thing. I don't want this to ring out so long on the envelopes of the bell. Different bell. And I don't want it to sustain. I want it to actually have the same shape as this. So one thing you can do is you can open this up, right click and say copy curve shape. And let's go up to these bells and just 100%, one shot. I have to set it about right there. Custom shape, pop, paste. And let's do it to the second. Go custom shape, one shot, paste. And this is not working because I haven't brought up amp. Now I have. Cool. Now, I saved this patch. If you save the patch and you want to update the patch, just hold down Option or Alt and click Save, and that quickly resaves it. You don't even have to go to the Save and Update. That's just same thing as hitting Update by holding on Option, Alt, and Save. Okay? So this is a fun library. I'm opening it up for the next 2 weeks for you guys to make patches. So if it's after October of 2024, you missed a window to make custom patches for the library, but it's still, there will be a bonus library that instead of being, right now it has 2 patches. When you buy the library and install it, it will probably be over 100 bonus patches. That's what I hope. I'm going to make probably 20 or so myself. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. I love making libraries and kind of challenging myself with new ways of trying to think of how to make sound. What is sound? What can sound do? What can you do with sound? All that stuff. And this is very fun. So thank you, and we'll see you next video, okay?